Hey, so I'm guessing if you know anything about geography or got curious about geography in any kind of way, you probably looked at this specific island right here, studied it way through, was mesmerized by all of the geographic locations, and then it suddenly came to you. It's in France. Like, most of the people that live there are more ethnically Italian, and the language that they even speak there is way more related to Italian than it is to French. So, why is it in France? Hey, if you're bored yet,
Napoleon was kinda like born here.
ha! Got you, Lord. Hi, my name is Johnny, but please, call me Galaxy if you will. I'll mainly be conversing about linguistics, cultures, and in this case, geography. So, what is Corsica? Well, for starters, here's their wait a minute. The country is primarily focused on the mountains. In fact, it is the most mountainous country out of all the Mediterranean islands in the sea. Mountains actually make up 2/3 of the entire island mass, meaning it's very hard to grow a lot of crops on here. Looking at a satellite view image, you can obviously see a lot of the farmland is actually situated in the east of the country. However, a lot of the population doesn't actually reside there. Ajaccio and Bastia actually reside half of the island's population, and most of the area surrounding the area is pretty mountainous, if you ask me. Like most cities in Europe, these two have a ton of history amenities added onto it. And oh my god, let me just get this out of the way. I am not dying in this world until I see the stunning cliffside architecture of Bonifacio. Like, let me just show an image right here. Like, come on, you cannot not visit here. Also, just hearing the word Corsica reminds me of that one time I got killed on that one Minecraft server. It's a long story, I'll get to it. But anyways, we should really get back to the question here. Why is Corsica part of France? Why isn't it part of Italy? Why isn't it its own constitutional monarchy?
Why isn't it part of Spain? Why isn't it part of Monaco? Why isn't it part of Tunisia? Why isn't it part of Egypt? Why isn't it fucking Britannica?
Oopsie, just my internet acting up again.
Help.
Well, let's answer this question by delving into the history. Now, even though being in such a human-populated area, Corsica actually wasn't discovered as an island until 560 BC. And I know what you're saying. 560 BCE, that's so long ago. Really, no. Europe was actually discovered way long ago, like around 60,000 years ago. And Corsica is just like right there. So how are they not able to discover that? Anyway, let's stop questioning yourself and really get to the answers here. As they discovered the island around this time, they also set up a settlement there. And it's still relatively popular today. It's called Alaria. Maybe I pronounced that wrong, but who cares? Its location today is in the primarily farmed area of the east coast. And Greek domination of the island really continued for quite a while. Around 300 years later was only when the Romans started colonizing the area. And alongside with that was Sardinia, but we'll probably get to that to another episode. Eventually, as other powers started to get strong and in need of more land, they sought, alongside other lands, Corsica. This eventually led to the mass destruction of a lot of the towns there over the period of 600 years. Eventually, the Romans couldn't bring themselves together to keep control of the land, so eventually the Byzantine Empire came in and started nominally rebuilding a lot of the towns. The Bishop of Pisa later took control of the papacy of the area and started constructing 300 churches there. Again, adding on a lot to the Italian influence. But this would eventually cause conflict with the Genoans, conflicting on who should rule the area. Eventually, the Genoans beat the Pisans, and Genoa started to rule the area. This rule would stay constituent until 200 years later, around 1729. Around this time is when Corsicans start to privately war against Genoans in order to gain independence and take independent control throughout the entire island. This civil war took place for about 30 years until finally established its brand new republic, ruled by this guy. And the country was relatively succeeding. I mean, it had a navy, it had a military, it had a lot of things you would need in a regular country. However, Genoa still claimed that they owned the land, and around 1768, the Genoan government sold their rights to Corsica to France, and an overwhelming invasion of the Corsican land took place, meaning now Corsica has now been belonging to France, and it has stayed that way ever since. And shortly after, in 1769, Napoleon was like kind of born there, so they just couldn't give it up, you know. There were some partial invasions by the British and the Germans and the Italians, but France managed to succeed over the land ever since. And in my knowledge, yeah, it's gonna be staying as France. So now you know the history of Corsica. And don't get me wrong, I've only braced the surface of this country. Please, if you're a Corsican or you know a Corsican, tell me more about this country in the chat. And please, answer this question. Do you enjoy being a part of France? Do you want to gain your own independence? Or do you want to be a part of Italy? Tell me. This is Johnny, signing out.
سببا للنعيم الباقي في جنات الخلود